Hello? I didn't realize I was muted, so I was talking to no one. Sorry, was it too loud? Oh, jeebus. Okay, guys, first things first. Camera fixed. Pog. Okay, and for those of you who like are looking at it going like it looks a little weird, it's because let me explain the camera situation. Okay, actually let me just explain my past 2 days, why I haven't been streaming and why I've had like the unluckiest 2 days ever. But when you hear it, you guys are gonna be like, that's so you. But like it's also really sad, and you should feel it was so annoying, and in the moment I wanted to die and cry. I was really stressed out, and I was venting to like the camera store guy, and he was a really nice like old Asian dude who was like laughing at me, but like he vibed, you know. At the end I like walked out and I was like I had stopped by to say bye to him because he okay. Anyway, so let's talk about the Tesla first. So 2 days ago I decided to get my Tesla supercharged because I don't have a charge. Okay, so my current house that I live at doesn't have a garage, like an indoor garage, so I just leave it on the street. It's not been charged yet. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna take this thing to get supercharged. And so I look up some supercharging stations. The closest one is in downtown LA. It's pretty far away, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make the drive to downtown LA because I want to drive the car more. You know, it's DTLA, maybe I can look at the scenery. It'll be nice to have like a half an hour to kill. It'd be cool. So I drive to downtown LA. And I have a whole full year of free supercharging, by the way, because I bought the Tesla before the end of the year. They try to meet some quota or whatever, sell 500,000 Teslas, and then they try to get us all to buy our Teslas early. So we did. So I was like, I can test out my free supercharging. First struggle is before I went to the supercharging in downtown LA, I drove by 2 like not supercharging stations, but just places you could charge your Tesla at. I drove into one of them. One of them was a shut down hotel. I turned in and I saw no superchargers. Everything was like exit only. And I was like, ah! So I U-turned around and drove off. I go to the second location. I look at it and it like looks like a car wash. I pull over to the side. I call them. I'm like, hey, so you guys have superchargers? They're like, no, not anymore. That like shut down a long time ago. And I was like, okay. So then I'm like, okay, now I guess I'll drive to downtown LA. So I'm like, I go to downtown LA for my free supercharging. I see it on the left, but I had already passed it. And I was like, no! So then I drove past it, around, almost gone on the highway. And I was like, ah! So I turned right. And then I made this huge loop. And then the second time around, I swerved into the lot. And I was like, yes! So I made it. I pull around and it's like this bougie hotel. And I was like, oh, hotel. I was like, hey, so this lady comes up to me. She's like, hi. And I was like, yeah, so I'm here to test out the Tesla supercharging. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. It's valet only, though. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And she's like, yeah, so that means like you need to pay $11. We'll drive your car to the supercharging for you. And then you wait here for like 45 minutes. And I was like, well, I can't just like plug it in myself. I paid for free supercharging, or like I bought my car early so I could have free supercharging. She's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. This is valet only, so you pay me $11. So I was like, but I paid for free. I have free supercharge. It doesn't matter. You're paying for the valet. I was like, so I got, because I had driven all the way downtown LA, but the whole point was I wanted to stick it in myself and see the whole experience, sit in my car, play like, you know, Angry Birds and stuff, you know, do what all those cool Tesla drivers do. But she's like, no. So then I get out of the car, she gives me this ticket, and then I was like, oh, excuse me. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, so my phone is connected to my car. And she's like, oh, like we don't take Teslas that only have a phone key. You need to have the actual card. And I was like, oh, right. I think I've got that somewhere. So I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, dude, she totally knows. Like I just got this yesterday or something. She's just like judging me so hard. And I'm like, oh, right here's the card. So I give her the Tesla card. She's like, thank you. I'm gonna go down and I'll let you know. I'll come back up and I'll let you know how long it's gonna take. Just sit in the lobby. So I go into the lobby and like I'm watching my car, like how fast it's going, where it goes on the phone. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like I can see where she is. And then all of a sudden it says like phone key like disconnected. And my brain, like I'm so stupid. I don't know how Teslas work. So I'm overthinking everything I do. And so I'm like, oh my God, the phone has to be in the car. The car probably stopped working. She's probably stranded. And I'm like, oh God, should I run out and go find the car? Like, how it works is like you connect the key card to the thingo, so as long as you have the key card, which she had, you can drive the car. But in my mind, I'm like, oh no, like I baited her. Oh god. So I was like panicking. I'm like looking outside, see if I can find her. I see that the car is like frozen, and like the car just stopped connecting. But that's just because my Bluetooth and my phone aren't connected anymore. I'm so stupid. Anyway, so she comes back up. And I was like, oh, phew. And then she's like, okay, it's going to be 35 minutes. I was like, okay, 35 minutes. Sounds good. So I just sit in the lobby for 35 minutes, just twiddling my thumbs. And then 35 minutes later, I go pick up the car. And as soon as I get in the car and I look to the right and I see this form, and it looks weirdly like the form that I had mailed into in a FedEx envelope 2 days earlier that I was supposed to turn in 24 hours after I got the car, the vehicle registration forms. And I was like, those forms look familiar. And I was like, what? So I pick them up and I like flip through them, and it's like the forms that I had mailed 2 days before. And I was like, wait, not possible. Like, because then I'm thinking the only way that the forms are here is if I mailed an empty envelope, which is just not possible. But as I'm thinking about it, I was like, dude, I just straight up mailed an empty envelope to FedEx and left the forms in the car. So I'm like panicking because on it says, if these forms are not mailed correctly, then you risk like losing all the benefits or whatever. And I was like, no, I mailed the forms. Like, I forgot the forms. So then, and couple days, I was talking on stream 2 days ago how stupid I was for like forgetting that I even had to turn in those forms. Like it took me, I was already late when I sped my butt to the FedEx store to drop them off. But when I dropped them off, I just sent them an empty envelope. That's what I found out. Yes, 2 days ago. So then I'm panicking. I call the Tesla number and I keep calling the wrong department. And I'm like, hi, this is my problem. They're like, oh, let me transfer you. This is not the right department. And the guy like audibly snickers at me. He's like, oh no. And I told him my problem. I was like, yeah, so what do I do? And he's like, let me transfer you to delivery. And I was like, okay. So he transfers me. The phone immediately goes to like voicemail or hang. So I'm like, call again. Oh yeah, let me transfer you to delivery. A lady. So I call a third time and I'm like, don't transfer me to delivery because every time they transfer me, it just goes to voicemail. And the girl goes, oh, okay, you know what you should do? You should drive all the way to Burbank and just drop it off directly. And I was like, drive to Burbank? And she's like, yeah, because like you kind of like, you didn't send it in. You want to get it in as soon as possible. So I was like... So, but also by this time I had already gotten back to my home. So I'd driven to downtown LA and all the way back. And if I had to go to Burbank, I have to go back to downtown LA and further. So then I was sitting there just like, no. And then I was like, do you know when the Burbank place closes? Are they open for all this stuff? And then she's like, I'm not sure. You could call them. So then so I call them. They don't pick up. Call them. They don't pick up. Call them. They don't pick up. And I was like, I'm just going to go. So I start driving to Burbank. Vroom, 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 vroom. This was, by the way, supposed to be like a quick thing where I was supposed to just fill up my charge and just boom and be done with it. So anyway, I drive all the way to Burbank. It's honestly beautiful. I don't regret it. I listened to Justin Bieber. He has this banger song called Anyone that just came out. And so then I get to Burbank. I pull into this Tesla store, superstore. And I drive in and I have an identity crisis. I'm like, everywhere I look, there's a Tesla. Blue Tesla, red Tesla, gray Tesla, black Tesla, white Tesla. And I'm like, whoa. And so I drive in, I park, and I get out, and I'm like, where's my Tesla? There's too many that look exactly the same, but it was kind of cool. So I felt like kind of cool for a moment. And then I grab my forms. I go into the store. I'm like, hi, here's my dilemma. And then the guy's like, oh yeah, you're good. Just give it to me and let me check. He goes and he checks. And I'm like, can I use the bathroom? By the way, I have to pee so bad. I don't know why I'm going into detail about this, but I had to pee so bad. He's like, yeah, just down there. And I'm like, and then I get into the stall and I'm like, where is the little pokey thing that comes out so I can hold my bag? Oh, I find it. And then I pee and I was like, oh, felt so good. And then I get out, wash my hands. And then I leave the store. And then I realize I'm at a Tesla superstore. So there are supercharging stations at the thing. So I reverse and I go forward and there's only one spot. And that spot is in between two Teslas that are charging, and those cars are facing outwards. I'm like, I've never charged a Tesla before, so do I like what if I drive forward and park the other way? Like, am I gonna look like an idiot? Like, does the wire thingo not reach that far? But then if I back into it, like, if I back into the spot, I don't know how to back into a spot that small. So I drive up and I think about it, and then my social anxiety kicks in, and I just drive off. So I didn't even go. I was like, dang it. So then as I'm driving away,
for you.
As I'm driving away, I was like, I don't know how the car parks backwards. I have not used autopilot, and that's not because I didn't want to. It's because I can't figure it out. I was Googling autopilot videos while I was waiting, like at the test at the LA place, and it says like, yeah, just double tap the thing. I double tap many times. I turned on the windshield wipers by accident. I see like the thing, and it says like autopilot, but I let go of the gas, and my car just stops, and then the cars behind me are like, hello. So many times have I let go waiting for autopilot to kick in, and nothing happens. So I just like, and so I still haven't gotten it to work. It's on the left side, right? I go like, nothing happens. So I went into the settings and I turned on everything, and nothing works. Anyway, so then my social anxiety, I wasn't able to test out the supercharging because there's too many other Tesla cars there. I leave, I drive home, and I finally get back, and it's like 5 p.m. and I swear my journey started at 12. And then, you know, because like I charge all those miles at the freaking LA place, by the time I got back from Burbank, my mileage was basically at the same spot that I had gotten, that it was prior to charging the car. So it's like I never even went. Cheryl, thank you for the 2 months. So that was really annoying. So I was too tilted to stream that day because I was just like very upset. And so that was my day. Then yesterday I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stream. Today's the day, okay? This is so frustrating. I can't believe this happened to me. So as of a couple days ago, you guys know about my camera problem. I have a ton of these cameras, okay? I have collected many Sony A6000, 6400, 6500. I think I have like literally 6,000 to 7,000 every single number of camera. And so I have one for the podcast setup, one for the kitchen setup, and then I had one for the streaming setup, and then I had one for photography. Okay, the Sony A7 Mark II was from my dad, and it's like this really expensive camera that I was just like, you know, it's been working for years now, and so that's the camera I've been streaming on. That's what, if you've seen a DSLR looking camera on this stream, it's been that one. So remember a week ago I went down for the charity stream for Mi Young's thing, and then it didn't work. Something happened that day that like my camera just stopped working, right? So I come back up here, I realize it doesn't work. So then I'm like, oh, let me go test the podcast camera. It's just sitting there, not doing anything. Let me switch out. So I grabbed that camera and I put in the battery of the one I was using for the Sony A7, and it has the same problem. And I was like, what the heck? So then I was like, well, maybe I broke 2 cameras, but there's no way the third one's broken. I grab a third one from the kitchen, I put in the battery, and it's dead. And I was like, no, that's not actually possible. That there's 3 cameras that don't work. So I start switching out the battery for charged batteries, for a different AC battery, and it's just not working. So I Google, people are like, no, just have you tried plugging it in? Have you tried doing this? I do all these things, it doesn't work. So I'm just like, wow, I'm just that unlucky. And 3 cameras went dead on me, and like Sony's just kind of scuffed. So my last desperate attempt to get this working was to get another camera. So I got the A6400 off of Amazon, brand new, okay? Shows up yesterday, and I'm like, okay, this is the solution to all my fixes. Oh, also, I called the Sony store last week, and they told me, yeah, it's not even worth fixing your A6000s because the amount that'll cost to fix them is like $400 per camera. It's not worth it. So maybe bring in your A7 and we can look at it. But the fix time will be 4 weeks. And I was like, 4 weeks? I can't do a scuffed camera. I can't have this. If you know, you guys know the scuffed one. I can't do that for 4 weeks. So then I get the brand new camera in yesterday. Okay, I open it. I was like, perfect. It's brand new. There's nothing that could go wrong. I put in the battery that I'd been using, and it doesn't work. And then I'm like losing it. I was like, no. This is actually not possible. Like, I can't, this is not possible. I get up, I grab my cameras, all 4 of them, and I run to the Sammy's camera store, and I run to the repair department, and I'm like, hello, hello. I was frantic. I look like a crazy lady because I have like 2 cameras strapped here. I'm holding 2 and I'm running in like frantic. And I was like, hello. And this guy, he's like this old Asian dude. And he's like, hello. And I was like, okay, please help me. And he's like, okay, what is it? And I go, tin. This is Sony A7. This is Sony A6000. This is Sony. This is Sony. Okay. And then they're all broken. And he's like, I don't understand how that's possible. And I was like, I don't either. Explain. And then he's like trying his batteries and he's like, huh, like this is really strange. And he's like, you know, how about your SD card? Is it your SD card? Maybe, you know, one time I had a guy who put in this SD card and as soon as he put it in, it would just break all the cameras. Like this was a bad SD card. I was like, I don't have SD cards in any of them. And he's like, okay, well, why don't you go up to the Sony department, level 3. By the way, this Sammy's camera is like 15 stories high. So I'm like, this is like store 1, repair, go to level 3, go, oh, and they send me back down to level 2, which sends me back up to level 3, which sends me to level 4. Okay, I'm not kidding. I was sweating. Okay, so anyway, so Sony level 2, repair level 2 sends me to Sony level 3, and it's not helping me because there's this one dude in the store who is stressing out. He's this guy, he broke his camera, and he's like whining like at the top of his lungs to every employee who will listen, and he's like, I don't actually understand how this camera works. This is my friend's camera, but I broke it, and you're telling me it's gonna take 4 weeks. So he's stressing me out in the background, and I'm like, ah. So I go up and I talk to the Sony guy, and I'm like, I do the same thing. Dun. They're all broken. And this guy like is a lot more deadpan, and he's just like, I mean, like, what battery are you using? And I was like, I'm using this one. And then he's like, is that Sony brand? And I was like, no, I got off Amazon because it's cheaper. And he's like, well, there's your problem. You shorted all your cameras. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, yeah, you shorted all your cameras. He's like, that battery is like a bad battery. And I was like, no. I bought this one came in the mail today. And the first thing I do when I grab it, you're telling me, is put a bad battery in and break it. He's like, yeah, you're gonna go back to level 2 to the repair and talk to that guy. So I go back to camera, like to floor 2, and this guy's like, so what happened? And I was like, I shorted all the cameras. And he's like, oh no. And I was like, is there anything to fix it? And he's just like, no, I mean, we got to send these all to Sony. Like, this is an expensive fix. It might not even be worth fixing these 2. And he's like, it's going to be at least $350 per camera. And I was like, what? But I just got this one. He's like, they did not feel bad for you at all. But apparently I had like this, I never use a fake brand battery, by the way. It's like $50 cheaper. It is not worth it. I use a knockoff brand, and it broke all of my cameras. So like, that's why you know what the craziest thing is? Like, think about this, right? I put it into my Sony A7. I'm like, oh, it doesn't work. I grab a perfectly functional camera, break it. Oh, dang it. I grab another perfectly working camera, break that one. I buy a new one, and I break it. That's what I was doing. But in my mind, I'm like, huh? So I was like, I was stressing out to this guy he's like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I was like, has this ever happened? He's like, man, not really. No. Is it just my bad luck? He's like, I mean, yeah. So I was freaking out, stressed out. And so the guy was really cool about it. And he's like, here, let me take in all of the cameras. I'll ship them to Sony. We won't charge you a penny for now. Let me get a quote for you. I'll call you back this weekend and we can see what's worth fixing and what's not worth fixing. And then I was like, okay. And I'm like, okay, but now here's my new problem is I need a working camera. And he's like, yeah, you're going to go back up to floor 3. And then I was like, so I run back up to the 3rd floor and I'm like, hey, I'm back. So I dropped off all the cameras and now I need another one. And so then it's a different dude and he's like, And I was like, perhaps a used one. So he finds me a used camera because I'm not buying a brand new one. So So I get a used A6300 because at this point I have broken a 6400, 6500, and a 6000. So I'm not about to buy another of the same. So I bought a 6300. I have them all. And so then I got the 6300 used, and then I got it. Oh, no. First, I asked him, can I do a rental? And he's like, yeah, that'll be fine. Go to floor 1 for rentals. So I scooch my booty down to the first floor. I'm like, is this rentals? And they're like, yes, this is rentals. So I was like, okay, so do you have any Sony A6000 cameras for rent? And he's like, let me look. And so then he looks and he's like, we got the A7 Mark II, we got the Mark III, we have the A7R Mark IV. That's going to be $185 per day. This one is going to be $150. I was like, do you have the A6000? He's like, no, none of those. And I was like, okay, well, what about the battery? He goes, no. And I was like, he's like, yeah, you want to go back to floor 3 if you want. I was like, I know which floor I could buy the Sony camera on. I go up back to the 3rd floor. And I'm sweating, by the way. So 3rd floor, all sweaty. And then I'm like, hey, so gonna buy that camera, a used one. He gives me the used camera. And then I'm like, oh, by the way, do you have that HDMI wire? And he's like, that's on floor 4. So I go up to floor 4. I ask them, do you have this HDMI wire? And the guy's like, oh yeah, right here. I grab it and I'm on my phone at this point. I go down, I'm like walking mindlessly. I go down to floor 3 thinking it's floor 1. And so I exit and I'm like, where am I? And then I'm like, oh, shoot. So I put my phone down and then I realized, oh, I should probably pay for this. So I go back up to floor 4 and I was like, I forgot to pay for this. And he's like, you can pay for that on any floor. And I was like, well, I'm already here. So I paid for it on floor 4. And then finally I'm like, and I go back and then I stop at floor 2 and I'm like, bye. And then he's like, good luck. And then I leave. And that was my whole journey. It was horrible. It was just, so that was my yesterday, and my Tesla was the day before, and I've just had such a bad 2 days. Oh, the battery. I got the battery on floor 3. I can give you a whole tour of Sammy's cameras, by the way, in Los Angeles. I know everything about that store now. Any updates on the 4 that got shipped out to Sony? No, those, he'll call me on this Saturday with a quote. So all of those, so right now I'm on a used A6300. There's my story, and now it works. Woo. I just replaced everything. I got a battery from Sony, I got the camera, and I bought a new wire, so there's no points of failure. Moral of the story, if your camera stops working, and just throw out everything. Well, definitely the battery, especially if it's not Sony brand. Oh yeah, I am gonna leave a review on the battery. I don't leave Amazon reviews often, but I actually thought to myself yesterday, I need to leave a review on that battery so that no one else buys it. What did Edison have to say about it? He wasn't surprised. He said that would happen to you. But yeah, guys, if you didn't know, you can short your cameras with a bad battery, and it's like instant. Like it was a really expensive mistake, and I made it 4 times. Well, yeah, 4 times. I shorted 4 cameras. I love that you can laugh about it. Dude, I was almost crying about it yesterday to the guy, and I felt so bad for him because he's like, he wasn't there to deal with my emotions. But I was like, you're telling me, and he was like, I mean, yeah, but the other guy was so cold about it. You shorted 4 of your cameras. I was like, I'm sorry. What? I was like expecting him to feel sympathy for me. He's like, yeah, I mean, there's your problem. Duh. I'm like, ah! You're an idiot.